The second episode of OVAwful is here, which means that I was forced to watch another awful anime at gunpoint by my would-be fans of this channel and myself. That's right, I put out a poll which ran until March 9th, asking my patrons to vote on one anime out of a list of 3 to not only watch, but review. The anime they voted on for March were as follows: Mars of Destruction, Yo, and Skelter Heaven. That one. I get it confused with the Beatles song. Anyways, the winner of the poll was Gyo, winning by 75% with Skelter Heaven, following with 25%. So, what is Gyo? Yo is an OVA from OVAwful, who are, or if you want to call them UFO Table, that's cool too. They're known for anime like, I don't know, the Fate franchise. It was also adapted from the Junji Ito manga of the same name, and if you don't know who Junji Ito is, I'll try to explain him here a little bit, but it's really hard to explain this guy in just a paragraph. So he's known by many as not only one of the best mangaka in the world, but also one of the greatest horror minds of all time. His stories like Uzumaki and even Gyo are incredibly dark and usually have a hidden meaning or even multiple. Sometimes his stories are violent, others calm and seemingly benign. He is also known to do shorter stories that delve more into comedy than horror, and while those are very good on their own, he is still mostly known for his horror manga and short stories. So, when I found out that OVAwful adapted a Junji Ito manga for an OVA, well, I was really excited actually. Probably more excited than I should have been, of course. OVAwful are a studio that are known for their incredible effects works, and this should have been a perfect fit. It should have been. But oh, was I wrong about this? So, how does one describe Gyo without completely losing faith in all of humanity? Well, it's yet another Junji Ito work to be dragged through the mud and have yet another adaptation. Take note, anyone trying to adapt his works. It will never work. And why will it never work? Junji Ito's mangas are so diverse as they are horrific and sometimes comedic. They are manga that are more than just what you see. There is a lot of work that go into his stories. To simply put, these manga just don't work in anime form unless you heavily change the meaning and form of his works. This anime though, it's bad, and the fact that it even exists is really a huge surprise to me. The anime's main issue is that it's just freaking boring. A good example of this is the beginning of the film. It's basically just Kaori's friends chilling out in a cabin. One of them is getting double teamed by a couple dudes, and the other wishing death on her, while all the while Kaori is worrying about her landlords. Things do get interesting when a shark with legs attacks the cabin and tries to, I guess, consume them? This moment in the OVA is quite well done if you look at it within a vacuum, of course, but what actually happens in this whole scene comes off as a really awful joke. Comparing this moment to the rest of the film, it has a completely different tone to it, and I don't think it was that intentional either. Erika? Comparing to the next part of this OVA, you have this scene where the landlord is calling Kaori and setting up not only the rest of the world and what's happening in it, but also setting up a budding romance between the two. Comparing to the next part of this OVA, you have this scene where Kaori's fiance is setting up what's happening around the world. But this scene really doesn't last long, or his life, as we go back to the cabin, where it's yet another jarring change of pace. Kaori is now going to get on a plane to go find her landlord slash fiance, even though she was told not to go find him, so she just up and leaves her friends in a cabin that was attacked by a giant shark. You know, normal things. And while all of this is happening, the city that she's going to is being ravaged by walking fish that smell like death. The characters are obviously not a bright spot for this OVA. Kaori, Tokyoには戻ってくる。 While on this plane, they hastily set up Kaori's connection to this landlord, and it turns out that he would invite her to his recording studio to listen to music, and they're also kind of getting married. This sets up Kaori's hatred for the smell of death, which is, I think that's kind of obvious. Most people would hate the smell of death, no? So she wakes up on the plane with her new friend, and they make a landing, but it's not a good one. It's a catastrophic one as the runway is covered with walking fish. This ends up making the plane crash, and somehow they all survive and are just kind of let go. Like, they don't really go into how they are recovered or saved. They just rush through all that, and I guess they're just like, whatever, just go do whatever, I guess. We're not even going to check if any of you are dead or injured or have a concussion. You're fine. So Kaori and her new friend go to the metro, and they split up to leave, but her new friend decides to join her because he notices that Kaori's landlord / fiance is in a news headline with the person that he's trying to look for. Back at the cabin, Chubby-chan is banging on the door and is wondering why DP Senpai is still in her room. So she lets herself in. There's like a sort of haze in her room that's just without the whole thing. It's kind of murky as well. It's very hard to see. Almost like a haze, but it's not a purple haze, sadly. She then sees DP Senpai and goes to uncover her, and we see her reaction, but then we get another jarring cut, and we go back to Kaori. Turns out the train has derailed and killed just about everyone on it, but Kaori and Mr. Cool-kun make it out completely alive, somehow with barely any scratches. This is the second time they survived some incident that should have likely killed them. And then another jarring cut, because why not? We go back to the cabin where we see what has happened to DP Senpai Sensei. It doesn't matter which one, honestly. She is now a monster, and well, this next part is NSFW, so I'll describe it to you instead of showing it, so if for a moment all of you could just close your eyes. Okay, so do you know Thomas, the train engine, right? You know, he's pretty cool. He sings to kids and is generally an inspiration to many people in society today. Pretty awesome, right? Pretty cool. So you know how he blows smoke out from his smokestack? Pretty normal for a train. Honestly, most trains have it, at least most, steam trains, and older models. So imagine that smokestack blowing out smoke, but it's DP Senpai Sama Sensei's butt, and that smoke is the smell of death. That's pretty much what you see. So thankfully, Kaori and Mr. Cool-kun have made it out from the metro and are now wandering through this. By the way, how do they make it out of the metro? The thing was like collapsed. I don't even know. So now they're wandering through the city. But alas, a shark-kun attacks them and they make their way to a truck where Kaori gets cut and attacked by a squid. And if you're thinking, do they do the tentacle thing? But on the bright side, Kaori and Mr. Cool-kun make it out alive, but oh no, Kaori lost her phone! Let's hope that plays a part later in the show. It won't. Let's hope it does. Anyways, DP Senpai Sama Sensei and Chubby-chan get in a fight. Who cares? Moving on, there's a pretty awesome moment where Kaori is begging the guard to let her into the city to save her landlord / fiance from the attacking fish, but they don't let her. So they end up going back to Mr. Cool-kun's place where Kaori and Mr. Cool-kun do the obvious and they, wait, what? They don't actually fuck? Hey, but at least we get to see Kaori's boobs. That's, priorities. Anyways, some bullshit happens and DP Senpai gets familiar with a rubber hose and some yellow pages, but without the yellow pages, and just moving on. DP Senpai huts down Chubby-chan, and as she thinks she's okay and she's like escaped from her because she climbed a wall, or scaled a wall, she lands in a pit of small fish creatures and presumably, I'm just gonna go ahead and guess here, but dies? Back with Kaori and Mr. Cool-kun, they go to a laboratory where they find the mad, evil scientist who created these walking fish. It turns out, though, that the fish, they aren't learning how to walk, but the things they use to walk are in fact nothing that he created. I was misleading you the whole time. It is an alien device or thing from outer space that infects the organism with their bacteria and then uses their body as a sort of fuel source to survive. In a twist, we see the landlord / fiance say is likely patient zero. So Kaori and Mr. Cool-kun end up wandering the streets, dejected, where they come upon a circus tent. Very weird, right? Inside, there is what you'd think would be happening in a circus tent. A circus is happening. Mr. Cool-kun gets infected, maybe the scene before, I don't remember really at this point. Then, oh, by the way, some people get literally covered like shit. Like, they even say, like, people get shit on. It's really weird. Then, at the end, Kaori goes out to a ship, not shit, to escape. Well, I mean, you know, at this point, it's shit, so it doesn't really matter what it is. And we find out that Mr. Cool-kun stays behind because he was infected, and then we find out on the ship that the shit, like I said, it doesn't matter at this point, that the smell of death will now never go away, and the world has ended, and humanity is now out in sea until, well, I guess they're waiting out. Well, they're out in SeaTactics, first of all. You gotta put that pun in there. But I guess they're waiting out the death of those creatures, because the fuel source has to end someday, right? But more importantly, the memory of this shitty anime will never go away, just like the smell of death for Kaori. By the way, I actually don't remember if her name is Kaori or not, but we're gonna call her Kaori, and it reminds me of that cute blonde girl from, what is that? Your Lie in April. That's a good one. Watch that instead of Gyo. And honestly, why was this anime even made to begin with? It's poorly paced, terribly executed, and just does not work as an anime. If I were Junji Ito, I would legit make my own studio and make my own adaptations of my own work. At least then, he will make one that's somewhat decent. But honestly, his works just don't need adaptations. But Big Money Japan rather, sees otherwise and knows that they have an endless stream of money from the Junji Ito faithfuls like myself. So they never stop. The main problem with this anime, honestly, is that it came off as some generic American horror flick. Didn't have any of the Junji Ito charm. The only thing, I actually was watching this, and when I originally watched this, I didn't actually know it was a Junji Ito manga at all. So when I was watching it, I noticed that the main chick, she looks like the character that Junji Ito would model. All of his main female characters. He usually models them all the same way. And this is because it's just the same style, and honestly, it works. So why would you fix something that's not broken? So, and there's this one point where Kaori screams, and it has those weird lines above her eyes when she screams, and I went, that looks like the chick from Uzumaki and all of Junji Ito's works. And so I went and I searched up and I found out there that it was a Junji Ito adaptation, and I went, oh, so this makes sense as to why it's terrible. It doesn't make sense as an anime, and they probably took out a bunch of it to fit it into like an hour and a half. Maybe it's like an hour and 10 minutes actually. It's like technically like an OVA movie of sorts. It's bad. It just came off as some B-flick American horror film, and it was just, honestly, it was disgusting, it was boring, and it was all around just painful to watch. When I saw OVAwful pop up, I was like, oh, this is gonna be good. Even the things that make OVAwful weren't there. At the beginning, there was a little hint of like, oh, this is OVAwful when they look at all the fish. So at the very beginning of the movie, you get this moment where these fishers are like, they catch some fish, they dump it in this thing, and the way they dump it in was awesome. It looked great. That's about where the OVAwful influence ends, my friends, because that one part made me go, oh, that's OVAwful. The rest of it was trash. The CGI was pretty decent, actually, better than most, but still, this anime, I don't know, honestly, I think somebody else made this anime. I don't think it was OVAwful for a moment. It just doesn't look like an OVAwful film. I say film, but it's really not. It doesn't look like an OVAwful anime, we'll say. But anyways, what did you guys think about this? Of course, if you're not a patron already, you're probably watching this in April. This came out in March last month for my patron viewers. So if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, but also, donate to my Patreon. $1 gets you these 1 month early, so why not? If you like this, why not? And it throws me an extra buck. It makes sure that I can continue. It gives me a reason I can continue doing this, because right now, I'm not making any money off these videos off YouTube. So help a small creator, and if you don't help me, go see if your favorite creator has a Patreon and go support them. So I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching this episode of OVAwful. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any suggestions, patrons, on how I can make this video series better, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys next month with another episode of OVAwful. Thank you for watching.